number 4, or the N in Eaton, is when. When would we apply Renvoi? R-E-N-V-O-I. Renvoi. Now, here's the thing. Let's say the last step that you did, it was a horizontal analysis. 2 states arguing about whose law applies. You're like, I get it easy. Ha! No, you don't. Now you have to deal with Renvoi. A lot of times, people will skip this step, but it's a very important step to do, especially if you're probably going to be in second restatement land, okay? Now, what is Renvoi? Renvoi is the application of whole law to an issue. So first of all, there are 2 things. There's internal law and whole law. Internal law is state substantive law. We just went over substantive law. It's the same thing. That's what internal law is. It's the substantive law of a state. It's the teeth of a claim, typically regarding rights and obligations, responsibilities of individuals within a state, okay? That's the internal law. Now, whole law is internal law plus choice of law. So, internal law is the state substantive law. Now, choice of law is if they would like to use the first restatement to resolve a problem, or the second restatement to resolve a problem, or the governmental interest test to resolve a problem. So, typically, most states do not follow Renvoi because it is a waste of time. Now, you will not follow Renvoi if you can say it would be inconsistent, it would cause unnecessary circular analysis, it would be inefficient, and it would be unable to get a just result. The reason why Renvoi is circular is because if we're going to apply it, that means we're going to apply whole law. We apply whole law, let's say that we apply our state substantive law and our choice of law. Say our choice of law says to apply first restatement. Now, in the first restatement, they follow the lex loci approach, which is pretty much anything that happens in their state. If it does happen in their state, that's what governs. And it was very clear, very simplistic. So let's say, I get married in Utah, okay? And after I get married in Utah, I move to Washington. So let's say Washington follows the Renvoi approach and there's an issue with the marriage license. I'm going to file suit in Washington. And Washington's like, well, we follow the Renvoi approach when the 2 laws conflict, and Utah law conflicts, and our law conflicts, and therefore, since we follow Renvoi, we're going to apply a whole law, which means we're going to apply our law about marriage, which says it's valid, but we're also going to use, say it's valid automatically if it's between a man and a wife, okay, in Washington. But then we got to look at our choice of law, and our choice of law says it's based on where something happens. But we got married in Utah. So based on Washington law and Washington choice of law, we can't apply substantive law for Washington because according to our own analysis under the first restatement, we'd have to apply Utah law. So we go to Utah and we say, okay, Utah, we have to apply your law. And because we're applying, Utah's law, Utah might say, well, even though you guys got married in our state, we wouldn't handle this issue because we only handle issues with residents of our state, so we'd apply Washington law. Okay, then you go apply Washington law, and you go through the same exact analysis that you just did, and it leads you back. You see that I'm going back and forth because I can't decide which state's law to apply, because nobody wants to take my case. So, if you can show on a fact pattern that there would be a little bit of back and forth, you could say something along the lines of, although Renvoi in this situation would typically apply, we're not going to apply it because it's needlessly circular, does not, help the ends of justice, does not solidify a clear-cut end result. There's no finality to this. There's no conclusion. We don't want that. And so if you can, argue that, you don't have to use Renvoi. Now, there's 2 exceptions. If you have marriage and divorce, you're almost always going to have Renvoi issues, and you typically would have to apply whole law because of the different rules surrounding marriage. So if you get on a fact pattern something about a divorce, I would probably say something along the lines of, the internal law about marriage says this, and the state substantive law is X, right? And even though we typically wouldn't do Renvoi because of all these reasons I just said, in this instance, we'd probably apply Renvoy, and because of that, we're going to look towards the whole law, which says this, you need to list the internal law of that state and the choice of law principles, because of the exception that this is dealing with a divorce case, and Renvoy typically comes up more frequently with divorce cases, particularly when dealing with the second restatement. Now, Renvoy can come up with the first restatement, but it actually has a tendency to come up a little bit more with the second. I don't know why, but that's what you would say. And then you could go to a Renvoy full-on analysis if you want, or you could just leave it at that because you're going to have to break it down further again when you get to the first or second restatement anyway. But I would probably just leave it at that. Like, there may be Renvoy issues here because there's the exception where you typically have to apply whole law with marriage issues, like divorce issues, or property issues as well. And I believe that's it. You can totally skip this if you want, if you think you'll remember it with the other tests, or you don't think it's going to come up. But I recommend mentioning it if you can, because it really can potentially derail an analysis, or if you skip over it, it might also cause issues with the further on in your analysis. So that's the win.